You're road tripping to America's best music venues with Kyle Lamont. On this episode, Lamont ventures to Aroostook County in northern Maine to hang out with Ben Cosgrove, a traveling composer and multi-instrumentalist, before his show at Eureka Hall. Concertcast the podcast is an audio atlas filled with music maps, conversations, and discoveries to help you navigate America's soundscape and tune into every state's live music scene. Concert culture is travel-centric, and every venue has a voice, so let us go and listen. Created and hosted by Kyle Lamont.
Things are definitely different in these parts. Northern Maine, that is. The landscape, the sounds, my perception. Hi, I'm Kyle Lamont, and my day began around 10 a.m. when I left the Lucky Stone retreat in Sullivan. Before so, I texted Ben Cosgrove, who I'm meeting up with later, to see if the weird weather had derailed his travels. When he said no and that he was about an hour shy of Eureka Hall in Stockholm, I finished packing, jumped in my 4Runner, and maneuvered my way up the muddy driveway. Took a right on Route 1 North and settled in for a 5-hour road trip to a part of Maine I've never been to before. Despite the weather being gray, dismal, and gloomy with patches of snow, new sights, even if they are in your home state, always have a shine to them. The more I drive, the more things change. I left behind fishing towns, and now before me, fields and fields of potato fields covered in a blanket of snow. And you know you're way up north when some of the radio stations are in French. Potatoes are what Aroostook County is known for. That and University of Maine at Presque Isle. And as of late, for Jessica Meir, the first woman from Maine to travel to space, who hails from a town here called Caribou. Basically, this part of Maine is not a top destination, simply because it is so damn far away. But that's also what makes it alluring. I've been holding out on this road trip because, well, it's the last frontier of mine in Maine. So like anything, it's hard to let something go. But with Ben Cosgrove hitting the stage tonight and knowing that Eureka is one of the only venues in Maine that I've never been to, the stars are aligned and I am all in and savoring every mile. Luckily, there's a lot of them. My usual road trip practices are fully engaged. In between snacking on turkey sandwiches, salt and vinegar chips, and Sour Patch Kids, I'll blare my music. Then I'm known to drive in silence, without music, just listening to the purr of the engine and my thoughts. I make phone calls, take random pit stops to stretch my legs. It's a joy to drive solo, mainly because I win all my hypothetical arguments. After stopping at a huge truck stop in Holton for a piece of pie and to fill up on petrol, I drive through Presque Isle and then begin my final descent into the town of New Sweden. I was expecting cell service to get sketchy when I turned off Route 1 onto 161, but it was stronger than ever, probably because we're so close to New Brunswick, Canada. I felt a bit uneasy leaving Route 1. It's a comfort blanket of mine, especially because the clouds are getting dark and the temperatures are dropping to single digits, and there was absolutely nothing around. I start thinking bad things, like if I were to go off the road, I would have to rely on a small blanket in the back seat and a sandwich crust to get me through the night. But just when my thoughts were getting as dark as the clouds, I see a lone figure walking the cold winter road, and I know immediately who it is. I roll my window down and, in jest, make a joke about how I'm looking for a traveling composer. He's at first taken aback, like he hasn't seen a human in a while, and then, with a radiating smile, says that I've found him. It's Ben Cosgrove, and he's killing time before his gig by walking around the venue. And in this case, he's not exploring cityscapes or coffee shops or boutiques, but rather exploring rolling hills and frozen creeks. I pull into the parking lot, and the name of the venue, Eureka, could not be more apropos. There is a true sense of discovery and jubilation of seeing a random, yet warm and inviting building in the middle of nowhere. Next episode, we'll dive more into the insane history of this music venue, but for now, we're hanging out with Ben before his performance here. He regroups with me in the parking lot, and I decide while we still have the light to saunter with him through the snow.
Here, after you, Ed. Try not to slip, because there's a lot of snow. So if we suddenly sink up to our waist, that's
So
as
on
I did
one
earlier.
side of the marquee here, it says welcome sledders, and on the other side it says welcome Ben and Max.
Yeah, that's us. We're on a first name basis with Aroostook County.
Max Garcia Conover is a singer and songwriter from Portland who's also on the bill with Ben tonight. This feels so nice to walk in nature.
Yeah, you're getting a very representative experience of what my touring is usually like, which is sort of like if I get there early, I sort of ramble around. So actually, I did this gig 3 years ago, and took the day in between the two nights to walk up and down one of the roads for as far as I could, and I slipped and broke my ankle.
You broke your ankle here?
Yep. And
No.
I got to go to the Caribou emergency room. And
Wow, so you know this place inside and out.
yeah, I can tell you all about where not to step. Actually, it's clear that I did not learn any of the important lessons from that.
No, you're still fearless when it
Yeah,
comes to
exactly.
exploring.
Yeah, that's the word I was going to use.
Our nature walk quickly turns philosophical. But you're very cognizant of sounds in nature.
I try to be. I mean, how would you interpret the sound of a footstep? Is that you sort of intruding on the sound of what should be there, or are you kind of adding to it?
So, but what... You're asking this town is out to get your ankle.
We're definitely walking 4 feet above the ground right now.
So, okay, the whole premise or theme of your piano music, what is the genre you like to call it?
I just say instrumental usually.
Instrumental?
Yeah, it's always hard to describe because it's not classical music and it's not new age music or it's not jazz music. It's just sort of, I was just sort of think, I'm like a singer-songwriter who doesn't sing. But I write about landscape and place and geography because these are things that I'm really kind of nerdy about and obsessed with, and it's been fun and really gratifying to kind of use my music as a way to think about those things publicly. And it kind of doubles as a nice way to use the music as an excuse to go places. I can kind of I wouldn't be able to come to northern Maine as a couple times a year if I didn't have the excuse of playing music about it.
I do like how you said that you're a singer-songwriter because while listening to some of your tunes on the way up, it definitely feels like a song within itself, minus lyrics. Mm-hmm. That there's little chapters within, say, Salt or Pine.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'm glad that came through. That's how they're intended. Also, a lot of the music I listen to is folk music, and I kind of treat it that way. When I perform, most of the time, I talk to the audience throughout, and kind of I think of them as songs that kind of shift and change over time, and kind of adapt to a room. We're about to have some other cool sounds of nature.
Here we go. We got some snowmobilers. Super rad.
Super rad,
bro.
I
Get
know,
the
this
fresh
actually-
pow, bro.
I was talking to somebody about this not long ago. This is true of a lot of really rural places where you expect them to be really quiet, but in fact, the definitive soundscape of places like northern Maine or northern Minnesota is usually that. There's lots of engines.
Let's go deeper into the geography.
Okay.
When did you acknowledge that was the inspiration for music?
I've been writing instrumental music since I was a little kid. And I was a music major in college, but it was also while I was in college that I realized I also had this very I kind of developed a big interest in, like I said, the built environment and landscape and interpreting topography. And I feel because I don't write lyrics, it's very important for me to feel I'm writing music about something or tying it to something bigger than itself. And place and landscape are things I love thinking about, and it makes the act of writing music feel more gratifying and important, and well, that sounds pretentious or presumptuous, but important to me. Like I'm doing the work of processing the world for myself by writing songs about how places make me feel.
So to you, is the sound of a tree like an A chord? Like,
No.
Does it translate that literally?
Never. No. It's actually,
Okay.
it's very, like, the opposite of literal. And it didn't used to be. I used to be much more interested in, like, the literal soundscapes of places. I kind of spent a whole year researching noise pollution in national parks and like, talking to people at the extent to which the literal sounds of a place inform its identity. Dealing with places more kind of metaphorically. My songs are usually about like ways in which this view reminds me of feeling, disoriented, or like ways in which a fault line reminds me of heartbreak, or like it's kind of like finding geographical metaphors for different emotional states and then writing music that connects the two things.
There it is. Nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Like you said, it's interpretive without lyrics, but yet you've managed to find emotion within the song.
And it's sort of a way to forcing myself to think like hard about, or like to be present where I am and be paying close attention to how I am reacting to someplace, or like what it is reminding me of, and what connections I might like meaningfully draw.
Yes.
I apologize for like all the sniffling I'm doing, by the way.
No, you must be freezing right now. Now we're going to get into the car, and our happy place is a car.
That's
in
true.
a lot of
we
ways,
do share
right?
that, it sounds like.
We'll
Gas up the
crank
heat.
up the heat and head to, the top of the state?
Yeah, we'll see how much time we have. We can go for it.
What time do you have to be back?
I don't know. Let me. I can.
Are they strict here? Seems like a very strict place.
Yeah.
We get into my 4Runner, crank the heat, and head towards Fort Kent, Maine's most northern town, and also the beginning of Route 1.
Two middle-aged dads just want to spend a quiet day with their daughters at the park. But when an obnoxious group of teens drive by too fast and too loud,
Idiots.
it spurs the aging, disgruntled dads into a self-righteous act of passive aggression. From producer Kyle Lamont and writer and director Jim Piccarello. Watch the award-winning dark comedy Passive Aggressive Dads at goodtogostudios.com.
And honey, just one little favor.
And we're rolling.
Sweet.
This is definitely a first. Interviewing while driving.
Oh no. Oh man, I feel like I'm your perfect interviewee for this milestone, though.
And why is that?
Because I'm always driving.
As am I. This is our happy place.
No, totally.
I picked the conversation back up so I can better understand his songwriting process. You're definitely the first musician I've ever talked to that plays this genre of music. So I'm also trying to decipher and articulate how I feel when I listen to music without words. I love electronic music.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same idea, but you lean into the classical approach, more or less.
I don't know. I would push back on that, though. I
Okay.
think I'm still writing folk songs. They're just not. They don't have words in them, and but they're about the same kinds of things. They're about discrete experiences and discrete things, and they're all like 3 or 4 minutes long. They're about these very specific things that are kind of like synecdoches for broader experiences, and that's why I feel like they're like songs. Like a song can be like about a very particular specific thing on paper, and then but then kind of secretly be about this broader part of the human experience, and that's why people love it. Like they know that like this song about a chipmunk or whatever is really about loss.
As we continue our drive past rolling hills, we move into the heart of his album, Salt.
went through this like horrific breakup several years ago, and I was trying to figure out a way to make sense of it that could be about landscape in some way. So I ended up writing about places where the ground is like undependable or like comes and goes. Because the way I was feeling was that like sort of the ground had been pulled out from under me, and I couldn't reliably depend on like where I could plant my feet or like where anything was, or like that kind of thing. So I wrote about places where that is literally true. Like there's some sort of like dependability or reliability or predictability to how they're shifting all the time. And they can kind of, like one of the last songs is the song about the Kennebec, which is like, it moves backwards half the time, but you can also kind of depend on it being there. And you know that like, there's this river there. Sometimes it goes one way or sometimes it goes the other way, but like, we can build a house beside it either way.
So when it comes to love, are you now more guarded, or do you feel more prepared to be in love?
Jeez. It's a hell of a podcast. I think I probably am more guarded. And I would like not to be, though.
Well, I think heartbreak or trauma or anything like that, like, you know, the only way out of it is through it. Mm-hmm. Right? And
yeah, everyone says that when you're going through it, but like, how do you, like, it's hard to know when you're in the moment, like which way is through.
And it sounds like you writing music was through it.
Yeah, I knew I was going to have to do it at some point. And it took me like a year just to kind of find the floor. But
it's funny because, I mean, just the titles of the songs, I don't think you ever would have guessed that it was about heartbreak.
No, they're all quite like entirely reasonably about the landscapes that they indicate as well. Like they kind of, like the first song Champlain is about a lake that is frozen, that you can like you can walk across what feels like a field, but you know the entire time that surface you're on is impermanent and can disappear at any moment. And you're sort of, it feels very kind of broad and open and beautiful, but also like you're aware of a particular like fragility. Like Greatest Hope is that it reminds people of experiences they've had or things they felt that they might not have had language for or context for, but like that might resonate with them anyway. And then, I don't know, if I can help people to feel more comfortable in themselves and their experience and where they are and think more critically about where they are.
I like knowing these things, and then now it's like a blizzard.
Yeah, that did happen pretty fast.
Oh my God, now we're like white squall.
Anyone listening to this from the county, we're on 161, just shy of Fort Kent, and we came up that hill where all of a sudden everything's open, and now it's like a whiteout.
And so it's very safe to be podcasting and driving, right?
Yeah, totally. Highly recommended.
Okay, so did your girlfriend listen to the album, or ex-girlfriend?
I don't know, man. We are not in touch. Even while I was making it, I don't think I cared about whether or not she would ever hear it. It was more about kind of trying to put something of an objective eye on my own experience of like processing this stuff.
We drive through Fort Kent, a logging town that sort of feels like a ghost town, and then take a right into a parking lot that has a huge granite sign that officially marks this area as the start of Route 1. We get out, and I relish in this huge moment of mine. Wow. I am living a road tripper's dream here. America's first mile. I've made it. Now, if only I could detangle from all these goddamn cords.
No, this is very cool. It is neat to think about, like, it seems sort of arbitrary that the thing right here and the thing in Key West is all Route 1. Because it's all like just like this river of asphalt that kind of goes from here to Florida, but also to Arizona and also
A river of asphalt.
I mean, right? Like there's just like an unbroken chain of road that goes kind of wherever you want.
This is exciting, Ben. Thank you for being part of it.
Oh no, of course.
It's official. We take obligatory photos and then head back to New Sweden. Someone has a show to play.
All right. Want
Nice.
me to navigate you out of town here?
Yeah.
And then I need to play a show.
Ben has a signature sound, style, and look. Picture crazy hair and a bright red keyboard.
I bought it in Danvers, Massachusetts in 2010.
And did you test drive other chords?
Yeah, I was actually I was preparing to buy. I'd been courting this other keyboard called, which is like the keyboard that everybody has, just like the Nord stage thing. So like whenever you see a keyboardist on stage, especially in a band, they're playing a Nord, and it's like the other red keyboard. And it's way better than mine, and for certain, like the organ is way better, and there's like a sort of infinite sound bank that you can deal with. But like, I had gone back to the store again and again, like testing out that keyboard to make sure I wanted to spend all this money on it. And then the very last time I went in to get it, I saw this other one, and like immediately fell like madly in love with it. I just like the piano sound so much better, and I love the feel of the key bed so much better, and it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. It's a Korg SV1 for anyone who cares.
But don't let the keyboard fool you. He also knows how to play a piano. Do you feel when you're playing a grand piano, there's a different sense of performance? Like you can't really play the songs you do on your Korg as you... Like, can you play the same songs? But they'll... Yeah,
but they sound... Like, it's literally playing them on a different instrument. So you have to like kind of... I don't know, calibrate your every instinct differently. And you can't do anything on autopilot. You have to think the whole time about how every move you make is influencing the sound that's coming out.
I didn't know that it was that extreme.
Yeah, and also like every piano is different. It's like this big, like crazy box full of like elaborate mechanisms, you know? There's so much room for like variance between piano and to say nothing of like the rooms they're in, or like bass notes are really loud in this bass and they're not in another. That's the thing I like about my instrument actually, is that it does change so much based on where you are, and you can never stop thinking about it. You have to kind of be active the whole time.
Would you ever want to play at Carnegie Hall?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know who books it?
Why would you want to play there?
I don't know. I think I would feel a sense of accomplishment.
That's what that place is for.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyone, any musician, really. It just is a pinnacle, really, of a performance, right? Because of why to you?
I don't know. I think it's like mythologized. I've never been there. I've never been inside. I don't know. I'm sure it's an awesome place to play and to listen to music, obviously, but I don't know. I wouldn't say no if I were offered a spot at Carnegie Hall.
When it comes to venues, Ben prefers to play in more obscure places. Just to like back up a little bit, like your genre of music, though, you know, in a sense, in a stereotypical sense, you would think to be performed more in a hall, something that's just a little bit more highbrow or something, right? But you said that you've played in gas stations, dive bars. Like, what is that process of, you know, going into a space that is built to be rowdy, if you will, and sort of tempering that mood, but meeting people halfway?
So I had to learn in the like kind of rowdier spaces how to tailor my performance to the space, and like in the first couple songs, make people feel like they should shut up and listen to me. And there's like no more valuable skill than that I've developed. And now that I play in more places that are kind of more appropriate for the type of music I do, I think my shows are better for having learned how to sell a song. I like, my thinking for a long time was like, if you can play a song in a dive bar and in a listening room and in a concert hall and in a library, like, if all of those people like it, then it's a good song. But if any of them doesn't, then it's like got something that isn't quite there.
I
so
like that
playing
approach.
playing in any venue or like non-venue that would have me for years and years made me learn kind of how to make my songs as bulletproof as I could. And it made me better at writing and way better at performing and kind of like hardened me against, I don't know. I never worry about like my feelings getting hurt.
Ben has a great gift for translating feelings into music, and he also knows how to read people really well.
Like every show is very dynamic and weird, and like anything can go in any direction at any time. And the bad shows are always the ones where you're just sort of like blasting down a set list and not making adjustments based on what you're observing. Like, I think to do a good show, you have to be kind of a living person in the room and watching how people are taking everything. And that doesn't mean just like kind of giving them what they like and seem to want. It's just sort of calibrating your set and the way you play everything and the way you talk, calibrating that to what the experience is feeling like.
Have you ever rolled into a venue and, been super let down or worried that your music isn't going to translate well, and then just surprised at the reaction?
Yeah, a lot.
Is that like the majority then of how you roll? Now, sort of wowing people? You start off like really slow and people might feel a little worried?
Maybe. Yeah, I now kind of open with the same song at every set.
Which is?
I tend to open with a song of mine called Montreal Song. And it, just because it's kind of like broad and like a lot of notes happen, and it's usually enough to make people kind of pause for a second and they're like, oh, like there's a guy playing the piano. And then after you've kind of cleared some space, then you can draw back and play some slower songs and see if people hang on. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of like fishing. You like drag a thing through the water for a bit, and if nobody bites at it, then you like kind of like recast. And then if you, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I've never actually tried to explain this to anybody using real words. But yeah, it's always a very kind of dynamic and complicated experience for me. I'm sure it's less so for people who are really good at it, but I don't know. For me, it always feels like work, and that's what I like about it.
We pull into the parking lot, and there are way more snowmobiles parked here now than when we left. The snowmobiles took my spot.
You might be able to get in between that blue car. Is those New York plates?
It looks like it. I think you're right. Let's just pull right up to the marquee, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you in there.
Thank you again.
Good luck.
This was lots of fun.
Next episode, we learn all about Eureka and the town from George, the owner, Ezra, the bartender, and Tim, a Eureka Hall regular and local historian.
In 1925, this was the near capital of the world. This was a huge town. It was it's nothing like it was. This is one of the few buildings, this Anderson store across the street, one of the few original buildings that are still here. But this was like a city back then.
For places to stay in Stockholm, your best bet is an Airbnb. So many awesome lake houses in the area. Or stay at the Northeastland Hotel in downtown Presque Isle, about 30 minutes from the venue. This town is also where you'll find more restaurants and bars. Subscribe, rate, and review ConcertCast on your podcast app of choice. Type in concertcast.live for a music-centric itinerary and to learn how you can be part of the show. And find us on Spotify to listen to our Maine music playlist. This has been a Good To Go Studios production, made in Ellsworth, Maine. Our resident mastermind is Mark Tuckashan. Our editor and engineer is Pete McGill. Special thanks to Ben Cosgrove for his time and for all his wicked awesome songs. And to Pepper Little. Amy Charlie, Abby Rock Jessamine, Corey Chandler, Emma Temme, Eddie Contento, Jesse Kudo. And thank you for listening.